It is 9 o'clock here on Tuesday, March 7th. We'll call the Wright County Board of Commissioners to order. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning, everyone. We have a pretty good-sized agenda here today, as well as we have the employee recognition, the annual one where we give out our individual awards today as well. But in the meantime, we'll jump to that at 9:30, but we'll dispense with the minutes from the February 7th and February 21st county board meetings to begin with. We can either approve those collectively or individually. If there's changes, we'll do them individually. Any changes?
No, I don't have any changes.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the February 7th and February 21st county board minutes.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Dietrich,
I'll second.
second by Commissioner Catchmark. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. County board minutes from February are approved. Now moving on to the next item would be approval of the Personnel Committee minutes from February 8th and February 28th, and the Committee of the Whole minutes from February 27th and February 27th as well, one morning, one afternoon. The recommendations will be coming at the later point in the meeting, so just changings to the minutes at this time.
Mr. Chair. On item on the February 8th personnel meeting, and it'd be under number 4. So the topic was to discuss a staff accountant request, but then you get down to the last paragraph and a budget analyst is introduced. And then under the recommendation, it mentions a budget analyst, and then it introduces discussing at a future meeting an HR tech. I wasn't at the meeting, but I'm wondering if specifically the HR tech, but that's not mentioned at all in the meeting minutes. And the topic of this was to discuss a staff accountant. So just wondering how 2 more positions got thrown into the minutes when that wasn't the subject. Well, and the HR tech wasn't even in the minutes.
So if the actual minutes themselves, or the actual agenda itself was listed to discuss HR tech, account staff, and the analyst, or I forget the title of it, the
Budget analyst.
budget analyst, yes. So all 3 of them were titled on the agenda for the meeting, and all 3 of them were discussed as that agenda item number 4. So from that perspective, they were encompassed into it. Now, title in here, discussion staff accountant, in the minutes, that probably should have read the same agenda item as it did when we went to that personnel committee. If you pulled up the personnel committee, it actually had listed out the HR tech and the budget analyst as well.
Okay, then what's mentioned in the minutes is a budget analyst, but in the recommendation, it's a business analyst. Which one did you discuss?
We discussed a budget analyst, not a business analyst. That is a typo.
Okay. And I wasn't there, so if someone that was there wants to make that correction, I guess, because,
Yeah, and then we can make that correction just to make the minutes, meet what actually the discussion, what the possible request was, so.
okay. That was all I had, so I'd make a motion to approve. Did anyone else have anything for the other minutes? Okay, I'll make a motion to approve all 4 committee minutes with that one change, if Mr. Chair wants to make it.
Yeah,
for
we should make that clarification in there.
the Personnel Committee meeting on 2/8.
All right, we have a motion or do we have a motion by Commissioner Catchmark?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Dietrich, to approve the Personnel Committee minutes with that modification, and the Committee of the Whole minutes, correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
If there is no other discussion, hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, today the personnel and the committee minutes of the whole from February are approved. Now moving on to the agenda here today. Is there any modifications or additions to today's agenda?
Mr. Chair, if I could, I think at the end for items for consideration, I'd like to discuss the membership for the joint ditch meeting today.
Okay, so it'll be item number 3 and joint ditch membership, okay? Perfect, all right. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve today's agenda as presented.
I'll make that motion.
All right, motion by Commissioner Holland,
I'll second.
second by Commissioner Catchmark. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, now we're moving on to today's consent agenda. Would anyone like to remove anything from today's consent agenda?
Mr. Chair.
Yes,
A1 for friendly discussion.
A1, and I am going to pull off B2, the ARP reimbursement, or not reimbursement, funding. All right. Anyone else?
And Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda with those two items removed for discussion.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Catchmark,
Second.
second by Commissioner Dietrich. All right, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right. Motion passes unanimously. A1.
Thank you,
Commissioner
Mr. Chair. Yes. So I read over the material and I had one question, was that we as a board approved some legislative priorities a while back to be sent on after meeting with the legislators. And we have this request. I'm wondering if that's going to be connected or have the same weight per se as our legislative priorities would be the first question.
So, Commissioner Catchmark, I'll speak a little briefly on this. So this item from the Wright Technical Center in request for special legislation / bonding for some improvements to the Wright Technical Center kind of came late in the game. It was largely formalized in language late January. Does that sound about correct? So it missed our meetings with our legislators and it missed an opportunity to be as one of our platform items. The ask is more of us to support it from a letter perspective. We're not being the #1 champion for it. The Wright Technical Center and the EDP are the champions of it, but they're looking for us to be more of a layer of support for this funding request.
Okay, thank you. And then second question, would our lobbyist be used at all to help facilitate or promote this item?
Right now, the ask is for a letter of support. There hasn't been a formal, they've had discussions about asking and having Flaherty and Hood be available to help guide them through the process. I guess I don't know if, Jolene, if you want to step forward, and is that an actual formalized request that you'd like, or is it?
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Thank you for inviting me here today. As I was not invited to attend the discussion regarding the county's priorities for legislation this year, it did come a little bit late in the game, but we recognize that there's a great need for the Wright Tech Center to have this funding in order to maintain its position as it has for the last 50 years. So we did get a House File number 2069 and Senate File 1856 requesting $9.5 million for the long-term facilities maintenance. The bills have been introduced, and I have not yet received the date for the hearings, but hearings are to be scheduled with the Capital Investments Committee. This afternoon, I'm going to meet with Representative McDonald. I've met with a number of our local legislators, and I have meetings with the chairs, vice chairs, and minority ranking members of the Capital Investment Committees to push this forward. The partnership does not have a lobbyist, and so I have reached out to Shane Zart of Flaherty and Hood to request some guidance on drafting the letters of support. So far, we've got great response from, I think, over 20 organizations, including Wright County Community Action, Sherburne County, number of school districts, a number of cities that have all supplied me with letters of support already. So yes, I would request that you sign the letters of support today. And if the county is willing to share the lobbyist, Mr. Zart, on some of these issues, it would be very helpful to the partnership and to the Wright Tech Center as we move this forward. As I am not a lobbyist and as a nonprofit, we don't have that in our budget this year.
Okay. Well, I guess that would be an official ask for the board then, if we would want to pay for the lobbyist costs to bring this forward. That's my question. And then what would it be involved? Because we have like a retainer or a contract for our use, right?
So it would just be billed upon use. A lot of it would be allocation of Flaherty and Hood's time to track the bill, to offer guidance in terms of in communication with legislation and committee assignments and where it's at, and to leverage it for the best chance for approval.
I'd say that since that's a separate entity, I mean, nonprofit or not, since it's not one of our official legislative priorities as a county, I wouldn't support farming out our paid service to this kind of initiative with a potential precedence of where would we draw the line with any nonprofit then, because it isn't part of our legislative priorities that we had a lot of discussion with our legislators over what those items were, and this wasn't one of them.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, as you know, as the Executive Director of the Wright County Economic Development Partnership, I am more than willing to go and meet with all of the legislators and senators, representatives as I possibly can. And both myself and the Executive Director of the Wright Tech Center, Brian Koslowski, have been willing to testify at any hearing that may come forward. I think that this has such regional significance, not only to Wright County, all 16 cities, 9 school districts, and our neighboring community counties, that I think that this is an exception that maybe the commissioners would consider allowing the county lobbyists to promote this bill passage.
I will state that I applaud Brian and yourself, Jolene. You guys have done a lot of work in a very, very short period of time, especially, I mean, there's no indication that the funding shortfall is going to get any better for the Wright Technical Center. And realizing that you're getting closer and closer to the end of the rope, doing what you're doing is, in some respects, it's a clot at a form of desperation, because it's not sustainable on the funding that they currently have. And the school districts within Wright County already are facing a lot of their own funding challenges with the lack and inability to pass referendums, and then just the inadequate funding that from urban to rural schools and the inequities that are happening within the school districts. So this is kind of one way to try and lessen the burden to the individual school districts that fund Wright Technical Center, because if they could receive these funds, it would at least put a little bit of a stopgap in that shortfall. So, because I don't think the way it looks right now that the individual school districts are going to be able to pick up the ticket over the next 5-10 years, much less beyond that.
Mr. Chair. Thank you. I appreciate you saying so. As you may be aware, the Wright Tech Center is a cooperative vocational school. It does not have its own authority to levy. And as it is coming on 50 years, the building facility does need improvements to maintain its modernization. We know that workforce development has become a top priority for economic development for our state, for the nation. And this is the last cooperative vocational high school in the state. So it's something that I think Wright County can be very proud of, and that we would really want to maintain. Over 30,000 students have received training there in the last 50 years. We hope to see that number at least matched in the next 50, if not doubled.
So the one discussion from the EDP perspective was like the EDP, Wright County Economic Development Partnership, could reallocate its budget and try to find funds to get an individual standalone contract with Flaherty and Hood. However, the economy of scale would be lost, and that individual contract would end up being quite substantially higher than that of what the EDP likely could afford than if they piggybacked onto the Wright County's contract and just did it on per billable hours. So that's just a perspective that I wanted the board to be aware of.
Mr. Chair, I would just like to add, I support these funds. I know it wasn't brought maybe in a timely manner to prioritize legislatively. I don't think we were part of that discussion either. But having it come forward and the impact that it has on our students, our workforce in Wright County, I support it. Mr. Chair, is it possible, like, if we track this funds and through the EDA, as we're partnering together, we have with the economic partnership, those funds to support the Flaherty and Hood?
I think it's not even so much of a question of whether you paid it through the EDA or paid it through the general fund or just through the budgeted item right now. All the expenses for the Flaherty and Hood contract are paid for through professional services. So I would just say that you just add with the board's approval, our contract with Flaherty and Hood is basically very fluid as the board adds topics for them to utilize their services. This would just be another one of those fluid topics that could be added, in which case then Flaherty Hood would just bill the county, in which would come out of professional services.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
My prediction is that it wouldn't consume an excessive amount of time from the lobbyist, as I have been willing to do a good share of the work as well.
Mr. Chair, maybe I should be clear. I support the letter and the initiative. It's just, I'm drawing the line with paying the pro services, and I think you made a good case here today. And you talk about the other partners that are willing to testify with you, and that should be sufficient, I would say, without involving the lobbyist paid by the rest of the county. So that's my position. The ask here is for the letter, and I'd support that.
Okay. You can do, I guess the first question would be, is there any members on the board that are interested? And we can approve the letter, or is there somebody that's looking to make a motion to do both? Or we can do individual, or just approve the letter.
I'd
At
make
this
a
point, you
motion.
stand for, you make a motion
I'll make
to,
a motion to approve the letter of support for the Wright Technical Center bonding request.
all right, we have a motion by Commissioner Ketchmark,
I'll second that.
second by Commissioner Holland. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, there's no other discussion on
Mr.
the
Chair,
topic?
I'd like to make a motion to approve whatever funding might be
The
necessary.
utilization of the Flaherty Hood contract from the county is what you're
For
making. a
that,
mo-
yep.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Dietrich. Do we have a second? Do we have
I'll
a second?
second that.
All right, so we have a second by Commissioner Holland. All right, discussion. Is there any discussion on the matter?
I do think that this is an important topic for our county. I was a board member for the Wright Tech Center for 12 years, and it is very hard to get money to do any capital improvements. We've tried many times to put bills forward, and they seem to lose traction. For some reason, for whatever reason, because it's a cooperative, or so it does tend to lose traction. Our legislators tend to hands off of it after a while. Hopefully they stay engaged. We have new legislators, but I do think there is an element of value if we do use our guy. He is topped out at 55,000, right, for the year?
There is a not to exceed dollar amount, yes.
Yeah. So I think it would be important if we could put this forward, because it really benefits the littler schools, that when the budget cuts start happening, it's going to cut the industrial trades, the more of the smaller classes that they can't utilize in, Howard Lake, Waverly, Maple Lake. So they look to the co-op, the Wright Tech Center, for those extra classes that the kids can take. So it really does help a lot of our kids in this county. So that's why I would support that.
And as I stated earlier, with the county being the largest funding mechanism for the EDP, and the likelihood that the EDP would have to reallocate its budgets to find funds to utilize a lobbying firm such as Flaherty and Hood, in which case they wouldn't get the economy of scale. It's just the best prudent way to allocation of funds to put them underneath the county's contract. So I support that motion. So with that, we have a motion by Commissioner Dietrich, second by Commissioner Holland, to add the support of the Wright Technical Center in House File 2069 and companion bill in the Senate for the funding of special legislation / bonding for the Wright Technical Center. Is there any other discussion on it? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, it was with great, deep gratitude that we would like to thank you for your support in this. Not only are we benefiting the next generation and those upcoming for our high school students that are doing career tech ed, our high school students that need the alternative learning opportunity at the academy, and Wright County Community Action's Head Start program. Thank you again.
All right, moving on to the second pulled agenda item that I pulled myself was the motion to approve reimbursement of American Rescue Plan funds for, the one that I wanted to discuss was the community dental request in the amount of $200,000. Included in the packet was very limited information to make the decision on it. That in one respect was making the approval of such request a challenge for myself. But the other second question I had was, can they articulate any ARP funds that they have gotten from other municipalities, counties in the region, as this is a regional center, as they have articulated, and us being the largest funder of it, and I don't want us to be the only funder of it, looking to see if they have anything to articulate on that nature.
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. I'll start with the one part of Elizabeth. I'll recognize the funding aspect of it. We did ask before, we didn't ask about art, but we made sure that they did not get any grant reimbursement. We had that a requirement first, that they have not received any MA funds on these grant requests. I'll have
So, Board and Mr. Chair, we approved a grant for community dental back in the beginning of 2022, and we had outlined eligible expenses to be covered by the reimbursement grant. That included staff time, equipment, technology, and miscellaneous operating supplies, and the invoice that they submitted matches what they had been allowed per the grant. So contractually wise, they're meeting what we said that they could do. We did not ask about other ARP funding that they received because we had already granted them the $200,000. They were just simply asking for reimbursement of that at this time.
Mr. Chair, would having the actual grant application included with, or invoice with this be, just to understand the approval of these funds? If it was just submitted to the agenda, just for information.
I guess
I just, this was approved, this funding was
Yeah.
approved in 2022.
Yep.
All we're seeing is the agenda item on there for that amount, and it's just.
It's part of the
having
original-
it-
yeah, it's part of the
Having that
original.
included to reflect
I-
to just new people what this is actually for.
I guess I was just looking to find out if it just from a reimbursement side of it, trying to get a better description on where things are. Just reimburse it, but they just wasn't. I mean, what the money was going towards, how they're spending it down, wanting to basically articulate what other funds they've gotten out there. Mostly just trying to articulate to the public that we're heavily funding this. We're not heavily funding it, but we are funding it from an ARP perspective, not local tax dollars, but federal grant money, that we are funding it, and wanting to articulate that I hope our sister counties and other communities are doing the same. And then my other thing was wanting just the transparency on what the funds were being used for, because I'm assuming, because under the grant, they couldn't be using it, like you said, to pay for a visit that was funded by a MA and trying to fill in the gap between a private pay expense and an MA expense, because that wouldn't be allowed because they're being compensated. They agreed to service these people at an MA rate. They're basically doing it for the ones that have low income or no income and trying to fill in the gap for those individuals, correct?
Yes, correct.
And they did submit a pretty detailed invoice with backup information. So we're paying $150,000 of staff wages, $30,000 of lab fees and supplies, and $20,000 for technology, which again match what was said in the grant application. So it doesn't even touch any of those expenses related to patients.
Sure. I guess it was that, just that without having any of that information attached into the packet, it was just, I wanted to have some details. All right.
Mr. Chair? Thanks for coming up and being available for questions. And I don't question the rules that it fits, that you folks did what you were supposed to do, and it fit the criteria. When I look at this timeline and dates, it looks like it's the last time the board took a vote on similar grant here with the clinic was 1/18 of 22, so that's over a year ago. As far as what we've given to them so far, $1.88 million to construct the clinic, discounted rent. We thought at some point we were going to get that grant reimbursement for 1.6, which, you know, fast forward a year since we voted on this last, we still haven't gotten. I'm just wondering about language that I thought I recalled that they're subject to an audit or like money management records at some point. Do you remember seeing that in our contract or agreement with them?
Yes, that's correct. We'll be doing an internal audit. We just have yet not had time to do
Okay,
that.
okay.
And to clarify, the audit is on their, not having to do with the ARP money specifically, it's allowed under their operating agreement that we have with them.
That's what I thought. So
Yes.
I'm kind of wondering with, I mean, we've heard they're doing great service for people around the state and there's hundreds of appointments booked, but yet it looks like they have these shortfalls here. So I think before, I'm good with giving them another 200,000. I'd like to see some more accountability, and I'm not going to support another 200,000 going downstairs to them until I see some accountability for the money. And I think we've given them enough already.
So, and Commissioner Catchmark, trying to, re-jog my brain from the decision that was made in a lot of the discussion back last January when we gave them those funds. Largely, it was about trying to shore up the gap in some of their startup cost expenses. Was what a lot of it was, and I'm kind of like frustrated that when hearing that a lot of it was wages, because it sounds like of that 200,000, it sounds like almost 2/3 of it is wages. When it was articulated to the board back in that January, it was articulated to they were coming up a little bit short in their fundraising from a startup perspective because we couldn't use the bonding money to pay for the internal equipment because they had to fundraise for, and it wasn't an allowable expense to use the bonding money to buy the internal operating equipment. And so this was kind of like, okay, it was an allowable expense, and the board at that time went with it with the ability to say, yes, we'll help buy some of the technology and the equipment for it. But then when all actuality, it was spent on wages.
So
That's where
they
the
are getting reimbursed under the economic assistance grant under ARP, so they're required to give us documentation to show that they incurred the expenses, so that's why they're using salary and wages.
Right, and honestly, I don't know this is Jamie Goodrum, Health and Human Services. I don't recall the discussion specifically from January when it last happened, but it was for startup costs, and we knew that wages were a large part of this, and that they did they raised their own $1 million, I believe, for the equipment budget, so I think that it is appropriate to be using a lot of dollars for the startup costs to bring the folks in that they need to start having all those appointments with, having the workforce.
So, I mean, I guess my expectation when seeing it, yes, when the original request did have wages in it, so I can't say that it wasn't part of it. It was just more articulated at that time that it was mostly going to be covered under equipment and technology, not wages. And then when you see the breakdown to find out that it's, almost a 50-50 wage aspect of it, it's just kind of like, okay, well, that wasn't really what I was expecting. But then there was the side that to undo it would be very in bad faith of the board to not approve the $200,000 at this time because we articulated that it was an approved grant to them, and at this point they're coming forward for the reimbursement, in which case us as a county, if we applied for a grant and came back for a reimbursement later on and they said, nope, we're not going to give it to you, even though you checked all the boxes per the requirements of the grant, that would make us a very poor grantee. So with that being said, I mean, I'll still support approving it, but I would just wanted to state that it was a little bit of different expectations on how the money was spent. Not that it was spent poorly, because I mean, I think you can articulate that in today's labor market, and to be able to open up, you have a cost of getting people staffed, getting them trained, and into the doors prior to being open. And
potentially to credit them for raising the funds through donations to pay for a lot of the equipment that this otherwise would have covered, so.
and even
the good faith, I think, works on both sides.
Yeah, and because the technology part and stuff was where a lot of it, and I look at it, okay, it's 75,000 of it was into the wage side of it, but the amount of money that they're paying into it was tenfold that, so I can't say that it wasn't, that they haven't had a stake in the expense as well, so. So with that, we have a motion to approve. Do we have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Dietrich. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a second by Commissioner Holland. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-1.
Thank you.
All right, now we're moving on to the timed agenda. We are starting, actually, should we move on to our award ceremony? It is 9:30. I just looked at the clock. All right. So at this time, annually, we recognize the employees on a special level from an individual achievement perspective, but then quarterly, we honor individuals for their dedication and years of service. So we are at our annual time here where we get to honor some individual recipients and some group recipients for the great work that they do for the citizens of the county. So at this time, I'm going to turn the mic over to our Administrator Lee Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is something that I know myself as well as the board looks forward to every year. We do have great employees that work for the county, and it seems not enough to recognize the great work that everybody does only once a year. So I always look forward to this day and celebrate the work that we do in serving the public every year. So this year we did have quite a few nominations, both for the individual achievement awards as well as for the group achievement nominations. We'll start by mentioning the honorable mentions. So if folks would stand as their name is called. So from administration, Philip Hodges. County Attorney's Office, Brian Lutz. From Finance, Lindsay Salo. Health and Human Services, Kaylin Sayan, Lindsay Collier, Ellen Schimperly, Beth Hammer, Jill Van Busicum, Lisa Wilson, Daisy Blanchette, Holly Hamers, Roseanne Duran, Janet Marquette, Andrea Bixby, Rachel Bratz, Emily Anderson, Jana Hoganson, and Kelly Heaston. From Human Resources, Lori Polk. From Information Technology, Angelique Petita. Parks and Recreation, Carson Law. From Project Administration, Rebecca Murphy and Elizabeth Carls. So how about a hand for all these folks? Thank you for standing to be recognized, and thank you also for all the great work you've done throughout the year. With that, we will move on to our Individual Achievement Award recipient. This year's award recipient is Sarah Grossesh, the Director of Public Health. And Kim Johnson has a few words to say on the nomination of Sarah.
I'll just wait 1 second while Sarah comes up. Okay. I nominated Sarah Grossesh, Wright County Public Health Director, as Employee of the Year for her role as the lead public health strategist on the Community Dental Project. Sarah has demonstrated her leadership and commitment to the well-being of the residents of Wright County. Through her hard work and dedication serving as the lead public health strategist on the Community Dental Project, she played a significant role in helping to bridge the gap in dental care for Wright County and surrounding areas. Sarah's significant contribution leading this project demonstrates why she was chosen as Employee of the Year. There has been a gap in dental care in Wright County and across the state for many years. The Public Health Task Force had a vision of bringing a dental clinic to Wright County, but prior to 2017, the project seemed almost unreachable. Sarah joined Wright County in August of 2017, and longstanding task force member Dr. Ray Mader said, Sarah came in and took to the project like she had been involved the whole time. Under Sarah's leadership, things started to fall into place. One by one, the task force started to overcome barriers by proving the need, recruiting dentists and insurance companies, and by raising funds. Sarah not only served as the lead public health strategist, but also promoted the idea at meetings across the state. All of the hard work by Sarah and the task force came to fruition when Community Dental opened in the Wright County Government Center on September 19th of 2022. As of January 7th, 2023, they have served more than 1,600 unique patients through 2,800 patient visits. 91% of the patients served use public programs. 4% are uninsured. 22% of the visits were emergencies, and 50% of the patients are children under the age of 21, and there are 1,900 future appointments scheduled. Sarah attributes the success of the dental clinic project to the task force. She said that group is a powerhouse. Sarah stepped into the position as public health director. She embraced the challenge of bridging the dental gap in our community. She made contacts, promoted the idea, followed up, and provided the direction needed to empower the task force to accomplish great things. Sarah has now taken this success and shared it at a national conference to help and guide others who would like to do the same thing. Sarah is a shining example of the kind of leaders we need here at Wright County. Thank you, Sarah, for your service to Wright County and our community.
I just want to say too that coming in as a new board member, you've just been so kind, and man, you have a lot of knowledge, and we're so glad you're here with us in Wright County.
Well, thank you very much, commissioners, and thank you for this. And I can't underscore the importance of the task force, and just they are really. This is an example of a project that was really driven by the community. We brought forward the idea of bonding and looking for the dollars to support the clinic just before COVID hit. And all of the advocacy and all of the conversations, and yes, we had Shane, but there were Dr. Mader and many of our constituents were working on that while we were responding to the pandemic. So it had a life of its own, which to me means that it was really a community-driven project. It wasn't my project, it wasn't the county's project, but it was something that this community wanted and valued. And to see it be so successful and serve so many of our community members so quickly just, I think, proves the point. So I appreciate this award, but it's also a lot of other folks came along.
And Sarah, I think you probably could have won this award for multiple different factors. I think your involvement in the opioid task force would have been an also very much deserving reason, or some of your involvement in some of the COVID pieces and some of the insight that you shared at the state level from the perspective of people in Wright County. I think there's many facets that you could have gotten this award for. So hats off to you. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you. And thank you, board members and Jamie, for allowing me to be creative in my work.
All right. Congratulations again, Sarah. We will move on to our Group Achievement Award recipients this year. We did have 8 nominations, so we do have 7 groups that received honorable mention that I will name as a group. Finance was recognized. Both the Information Technology Development Team as well as the Information Technology Department were both nominated separately. The Recorder's Office, the Sheriff's Jail Division, the Sheriff's Patrol Sergeants, and the Project Portfolio Management Intake Team were all nominated as groups of the year. So congratulations to them for their nomination. Our award recipient this year for the Group Achievement Award of the Year is our facilities team. Made up of Alan Wilczek, Pete Kyle, Robbie Klimick, Kevin Worcester, John Pregler, Matthew Arendt, Sean Olson, Robert Burns, William Vogel, Luke Ross, Mark Thibodeau, Jeffrey Peterson, Dana Oliver, James Gulliford, Jack Jonas, and Tim Fox. Alan Wilczek has some words to say on behalf of the group. So.
Get everybody filtered in. Good morning, board.
Morning.
Just a couple words. The presentation up on the slide, just kind of read through that, I guess. The couple nominations that our group got is pretty well said, so it might be best just to read through that. Overseeing a once-in-a-generation move of hundreds of employees from 2 facilities, both the Government Center and Human Services Center, into the new Government Center would be a massive undertaking under ideal conditions. Throw in a pandemic and constant supply chain breakdowns during construction process made this an epic challenge. Our facility staff were and remain our frontline boots on the ground for both, both for the new facility and the roughly 400 employees moved into, and the vacated facilities that we're maintaining for future sale or disposition. As with any project of this magnitude, change orders and unexpected hurdles came in the way often, and our facility staff addressed each issue as it arose and fixed it or resolved it. They deserve a lot more credit than they receive for the awesome and often unnoticed work they do on a daily basis, and I was proud to nominate this crew for the Group of the Year and recognize their achievement for making the transition as seamless as possible under far from ideal circumstances. And that was from John Haller. And the second nomination that's listed on here, they regularly help with the mounting of new equipment and changing conference room layouts. The facilities team is an integral part of the county. From everyday tasks like snow removal and general maintenance, the facilities team makes sure the county and the campus is a safe and well-maintained area for both the public and employees. I've worked on many projects in my 2 years with the county, each one involving help from the facilities team. I absolutely could not accomplish many of my daily tasks without their help. The facilities team always has a good attitude no matter what the project requirements are, and truly set a great example. And that's from Frank and IT. So just a couple of quick additional words as I buzz through those. Our group, and they're probably sick of me saying this, is unique in that a lot of our customers are really departments. Feels kind of awkward standing with all the employees behind us as we present this, but we deal with basically anybody that sets foot on the campus. We have public coming in. We work on a lot of the safety items, the snow removal, activity for facilities. But really, the other side of the coin is we're unique in that we deal with both the public and departments. A lot of our customers are the departments, and we do a lot of things that help the departments get their work done, which is unique for the county. It's usually one or the other. We've had a lot of challenges. We have a lot of activity. We have a full crew that's kind of split between two buildings here, but everything you can imagine, from after hours emergencies to jail incidents to activity here, conference room setups, technology. We have a lot of things we do for departments to be able to get their business done on a day-to-day basis. So really proud of these guys, and we've worked really hard to get to where we're at. There's been a large change and evolution, I guess, over the past 6-7 years of our crew. We've got a great group of guys, and I know we're really appreciative of this award. Andy, our new guy, gets to get an award on his second day of employment, so it's a pretty good gig. But just want to say thank you to those that nominated our crew, as well as the committee for selecting us as the recipient this year. I know we're very appreciative of it and recognize the honor that we're receiving. So thank you, and I don't know if anybody else has anything. Good? Nope. All right. Thank you, everybody.
I want to say that your group, this is like a building over the last 2-3 years to this award, and it's so gracious to see your group receive it. Over the last couple of years, you guys have had to work with things that had no blueprints and had limited resources in terms of building COVID prevention barriers or trying to mitigate things that we just didn't have doors that worked because the supply chain was wrong, and trying to figure out how we're going to make a door work in the interim period of time. Hats off to you, because you guys had to do some pretty ingenuitive thinking to create workarounds for these situations, and you guys have done it in a really timely and smiling, awesome attitude. Thank you. So with that, congratulations.
All right. I'd just like to take a moment also and recognize our employee recognition committee that helped put together the programs, helped to vet the applications as they came in. Without their help, we could not have this be such a successful event. So Tanya West, Jesse Miller, Delia Saponiak, Bridget McGriff, Brian Johnson, Casey Badeau, Kim Johnson, Melissa Meering-Paulson, and Mark Mattias. So thank you to that group for helping this be a success. So.
And now we get to move on to the time of the event here that we get to honor the wonderful employees who have spent many years here and their dedicated time to serving the citizens of Wright County. We'll start off going with the 30 years and working our way down, but I'll let the chance for our fellow commissioners to get down there and to get in the position. to hand out these certificates. So it looks like we hopefully have a good number of everyone in attendance here today. So if you have an award to receive, please come forward here and grab your mug and your certificate. So at this time, we get to honor our fellow county board member, former member of the Sheriff's Department, Commissioner Ketchmark.
Thank you.
Wonderful 30 years of service. And now we also, here in the back of the room, we have Mike McMillan from Court Services, 30 years of service. Hats off to you, gentlemen. In 25 years of service here, we have Wendy Marshall from Finance. We also have Alicia Gilman from Finance. We have Tony Andreessen from the Sheriff's Department. We have Lisa Fox from the Sheriff's Department. And we have Rondé, Howe from the Sheriff's Department, and Troy Wachter from the Sheriff's Department as well for 25 years. Thank you. And at 20 years, we have Josh Wilson from the Parks Department. Josh out there. And we have Georgina Turner from Health and Human Services for 20 years. Thank you. Commissioner Ketchmark, I'll turn it over to you to read the...
All right, Mr. Chair. Just checking on the audio. We have people in the back that are on here. Brad, you hear us okay? All right. Thank you. So 15 years of service. Daniel Cotton from the Sheriff's Office. Brandy Volbrecht, Health and Human Services. Marissa Ferguson, Health and Human Services. Colleen Myshak, Veteran Services. Russell Erkins, Sheriff's Office.
15 years.
15 years.
15 years.
Next, we have 10 years of service. Thomas Haig, Highway Department. Todd Findell, Sheriff's Office. John Bowen, County Attorney's Office. Troy Klein, Surveyor. Christy Rathmanner, Health and Human Services. Janice Edmondson, Finance Department. They're getting behind. That's a good sign. There's a lot of people here. And the last one for 10 years is Brian Ullman, Sheriff's Office. And next we have 5 years of service. Taylor Marshall, Sheriff's Office. Stephen Fury, Sheriff's Office. Whitney Moran, Health and Human Services. Robbie Klimick, Facilities Maintenance. Thomas Peterson, Sheriff's Office. Barbara Lee, Court Services. Ryan Kotola, Finance Extraordinaire, Finance Department. Leah Novak, Sheriff's Office. Stephen Waddell, Planning and Zoning, 5 years of service. Thank you.
Here at Wright County, we are very, very blessed to have dedicated employees who stay here and work very hard for 5, 10, 15. I'm amazed to see that we've had some in the 40-plus years in the time past. So thank you to all of you. Thank you, everyone, for coming. The attendance today is some of the greatest attendance I've seen. I want to thank everyone. Continue the amazing work that you do for the citizens of Wright County. I guess at this time, should we just take a short 5-minute recess so individuals can kind of shuffle where they may need to as we progress to the final part of the meeting?
Treats in the back.
All right. So we'll take a 5-minute recess here. Thank you. I think I'm offline. All right, you good, Frank? All right, we'll bring back the county board meeting here after our 5-minute recess. So we can get through the agenda here. Moving on to our timed agenda items. The first item was administration, and it has to do with the authorizing the county board chair to sign an easement agreement, relocation afflicting the Wright County property on the fairgrounds with Xcel Energy. And here comes Mark Mattice to speak on it.
Let's get ready to put. Sorry, you're up there. You scared me when I walked in the room.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I've been working with Xcel Energy on redoing their easement for their substation down at the fairgrounds. In your packet, there's a map. The red lines on the map are the existing power lines that feed the substation. The blue lines is their redetermination. County Surveyor Steve Job has reviewed the easement language and description matches, so he signed off on that. Looking for a signature for that easement from the board chair today. We have also worked through the fairground and the fair board on the project. They're okay with it. And we'll continue to work with the fair board because there's a couple feeders that come off of there if we're gonna go underground or above ground with those as the relocation happens.
So is there any questions or concerns or with relating to this from county board members? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to authorize myself to sign this easement relocation.
Mr. Chair, just a little further, we had a fair board meeting last night, and the fair board understands that they like the idea. The more lines out of the way or underground, they're in favor of that. They also mentioned if there's going to be poles pulled out of the ground that aren't going to be utilized, that they could be left there, and they'll use them for putting up additional lights on the property, if you wouldn't mind passing that message along, if that's an option.
I'll pass the message on to Xcel.
Sounds like there's really good communication going on between the Fair Board and Xcel and managing it, so.
We're trying.
Yeah, sounds like a good deal.
All right. So if there's none, I'll entertain that motion.
I'll make that motion.
All right, motion by Commissioner Holland,
I'll second.
second by Commissioner Catchmark. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
All right.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
All right. Agricultural and drainage, Matt Detchen here to talk over a few different drainage issues.
Morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. The first item I have is to update you on the purpose of the public hearing we're having at 10:30 today. It is still a public hearing. It is a joint ditch public hearing. The scope of what we'll be discussing has changed. The commissioners for Meeker and McLeod wanted more input on the scheduling of the official public hearing to hear this petition. So the hearing at 10:30 would be to schedule a future public hearing. So that would be the sole purpose of it. I would assume it would get done in about 5 minutes. There is one other thing that Attorney Kreiser and myself need to discuss. With a joint board, the commissioners are set by districts in advance, so you inherit the position on the joint board. The commissioner districts that were appointed to the joint board for this ditch were 5, 4, and 3. It appears Commissioner Shane is not here today, so in order to have a quorum, because we are uncertain if the Meeker and McLeod commissioners will be attending, we will have to appoint an alternative commissioner to attend at 10:30.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, members of the board, hence my quick addition to the agenda for items for consideration when Matt texted me and I went, uh-oh, we might not have quorum. So
So we can just take the items from consideration item right
I
now.
think you take it right now.
Now.
Yeah.
So at this point, either me or Tina need to show up here at the 10:30 for the 5-minute meeting.
yeah, just to schedule it.
Okay. I can do it.
But without one of you, it's a pointless meeting.
Okay. So then with that, I don't know, do we need to formalize the alternate for it, or if she shows in, is she automatically
I guess we could just make a quick motion
all right.
to appoint District 1 as the alternate, or District 1, yes. I'm getting my numbers correct.
All right. So
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to appoint District 1 Commissioner Diedrich to the public hearing at 10:30.
As the alternate for the Joint Ditch Board. Yep.
Right.
All right. Motion by Commissioner Catchmark,
I'll second that.
second by Commissioner Holland. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right. Tina, you'll be here for a relatively short meeting at 10:30. All right.
It will be thrilling, I promise.
We'll have to keep moving along here because 10:30 is coming up quick on us. All right. Joint ditch meetings, schedule a public hearing on an application to do work within the drainage system right away on Joint Ditch 15.
Yep. So since we're already meeting this at 10:30 to schedule a public hearing, between the time that I put this on the agenda to schedule, I received another petition for another project on the ditch. Does not require a public hearing, but since we are meeting as a joint ditch authority, I figured it was appropriate to discuss that petition at the same time. So when we schedule the hearing at 10:30, we will also schedule an item for this petition as well. So if we schedule, say, the next one on April 11th at 10:30, this could be scheduled on April 11th at 10:45 or something. So it'd be as part of that meeting.
All right. And now the third, I guess that's more informational than I think anything. Don't think there's any action on that. No. Third item, the approval of payment application number 9 for 41,258.58 to Blackstone Construction for the LLC for County Ditch 10.
Yep. Yeah, we had the public hearing on the 15th, approved holding the 1% retainage, which came out to $10,314.65. This would be approving payment for that remainder. We would withhold the retainage until those punch list items are completed.
I'll make that motion.
All right, motion by Commissioner Holland,
Second.
second by Commissioner Dietrich. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Just quick, did you crunch the numbers after that hearing where people were saying they thought they should get this and that, and this 10,000 is gonna cover the potential undone or needed work that's not done and any compensation?
Yeah, I think the 10 will be closer. We set it at the 1% when we were discussing it. We were talking about $5,000, which in my head I was doing the math and figured we were closer to 10. So the 10 will cover it, yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Item number 4, I did have a typo in there.
Mr. Chair, I think we had a vote on that.
Oh,
That
yep.
was just the discussion part.
So we have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, we're good. Now we're on to item 4 there, Matt.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, item number 4, approve the findings in order, accepting the contract for repairs on County Ditch number 10. Staff has drafted those per your request at the hearing on the 15th.
All right.
Mr. Chair, I'll make that motion.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Catchmark,
I'll second that.
second by Commissioner Holland to approve the findings in accepting the contract for repair on County Ditch 10. If there's no other discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
We also had talked, I guess, at that meeting, if there's other things that come up once you can actually see when the snow melts. How will those be addressed?
Yeah, so we have included, there was the punch list items, the items we are currently aware of. I'm assuming we would just add that to the punch list as the contractor's out on site. So it'll have to be a later spring activity anyway, just with how much runoff we'll probably have this spring. So.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
For information, Matt and I talked about it, but we think that it'd be better served to have these final hearings after things open up and the frost goes out, because there's too much left to guess and speculation doing it in the middle of winter. You got one side saying work was done, some saying, I don't know if it was. It'd be better to wait until it thaws, and then you can actually go ahead of the hearing and look and confirm what's done. We'd have a better understanding. So that was my thought for future final wrap-up type meetings.
All right. Is that just like an informational request, or are you?
Well, that was just part of the discussion, unless someone had a difference in opinion, but
No, it makes
No.
sense.
Okay.
Okay.
Are we, do we need to vote?
Okay. I just wanted to clarify if you were looking to make a request of. All right. So thank you, Matt. We'll see you here. We got ourselves 25 minutes we meet again. All right. Lindsay, Finance, and Taxpayer Services schedule a committee of the whole to
I
discuss
think we had a
election.
vote on that.
We have a roll call vote, Mr. Chair.
Oh, yeah, we did. Oh, I'm sorry for the acceptance of the, you're right.
Number
My
4.
bad. No wonder why I got lost in there. My bad. That was a resolution? No, that's
Yeah,
right.
it's a resolution.
Okay, that's where I got concerned. It wasn't listed as resolution on the agenda, so that's.
Yeah,
right,
we usually treat these
I
as
thought we
resolutions.
voted. Okay. So Commissioner Catchmark?
Aye.
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 Hi.
All right. My apologies. It passes unanimously.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. About a month ago, there was a meeting between Commissioner Vetch, myself, and Clay, speaking with some members of the public about some concerns that they had in the operations of the elections team. And out of that, we would like to share some information with the full board and discuss just some basic items. Vetch had asked for a few pieces of information for comparative information on registered voters, absentee voting. So we'll be pulling together some information and we would like to share it with you. Staff recommendation would be the week of March 27th.
And this was a time period that we had articulated to the group as well in trying to find a timeline that would work with their timeline and our timeline.
Yep.
So we're kind of really could a bumper of trying to meet somewhere between March 27th and at the latest date, April 7th. We kind of blocked off those 2 weeks as the time period that we were hoping to meet with them and the county board.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
could I throw out a date and time of the 28th at 9 a.m., a Tuesday?
That does not work for me personally.
Let's try a second try.
27th, Monday,
Monday, the 27th works great for me.
about the rest,
Should be fine.
9 a.m.,
It's however that works.
That works for Tyler and I.
okay?
On the 27th?
Yep,
Just the discussion if,
that'd be great.
all right. I do know that there will be some requests to wanting to meet later in the day just from the individuals from the group that would like to attend. Is there any interest in the group in wanting to have this meeting be maybe more like a 2-3 o'clock on that Monday, in making it a little bit more achievable, or even as late as 3:30, so we can kind of blend it with the staff side. But I do know that there's interest in wanting it to be later in the day so that they can have a good attendance.
It looks like my team can accommodate that.
Mr. Chair, I'll amend that to whatever you think is sufficient, 3:30?
For that.
You're for that? I guess, just so we have, I guess I would say that probably the latest we'd want to start it would be at 3:30 would be the latest, just so we meet within the staff hours of the day. So I would say the earliest we'd want to start it would be 2. So I'll leave it at the board's discussion. But the later side is probably going to be in the interest of the individuals that would like to attend. Interest. You want to go 3?
3 o'clock.
Go 3, it gives us a good hour and a half to 2 hours to meet, which I don't think it'll be 2 hours of discussion, but if it does, we're then more well prepared. Okay, then I'll entertain a motion to set March 27th at 3 o'clock.
I'll make that motion,
All right,
Mr. Chair.
motion by Commissioner Catchmark,
I'll second that.
second by Commissioner Holland. All right, we have a motion. Any further discussion? All right, we'll set a committee of the whole to discuss election operations and recap the previous election on Monday, March 27th at 3 p.m. in this room.
Sounds great, thank you.
Thank you. Right, sir. All right. Let's see, you're already past the 9:30. And now moving on to items for consideration. The county board workshop had articulated over to Administrator Kelly the intent to have a discussion on the workshop based on discussion with commissioners, kind of a coming together on there was a request to kind of come together and put together a few pieces of the puzzle from the ERP and one more educational piece on it from scope, process, target, impact, and cost. And I'll be sharing this information with administration. There's another discussion piece request from the American Rescue Plan and the process that the funding follows, as well as then the different buckets and allocations that have been made in the history, bringing new board members up to speed on that. The other would be a fiscal policies overview of the county board and what the existing fiscal policies, at least from a 30,000 foot perspective, would be in the giving an education to the county board on what those approval processes are from a fiscal policies. I think we have a lot of the slides and presentations from previous presentations for most of these, but it'd be good to get the new board members as well as us previous board members re-educated on those. The other one would be a legislative update, just kind of a brief update myself, and I'll probably have Shane call in to give an update as well on where the perspective of some of our pieces of legislation are at this point. Administration, do you have anything else to add at this time?
Health and Human Services had discussed about giving a presentation at an upcoming either meeting or workshop on homelessness in Wright County. I think it might be a good workshop topic if the board is willing.
All right. Is that interest of the board? Okay, that's fine. Okay. All right. Then with that, I think we have a more than robust workshop for next week already with those 5 topics. Is there anything else that board members would like to add on to the agenda for the workshop for next week? Hearing none, otherwise I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Commissioner Dietrich, second by Commissioner Holland. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, the workshop agenda is solidified. Moving on to the next item here, under items for consideration, would be the approval of committee recommendations. So on the February 8th, which was carried over here, there's a number of recommendations. The recommendations kind of, from the first one was the extension support staff request from a half-time to a full-time. Then there was the second request was to prepare priorities from the facilities risk assessment for a future committee of the whole. Then there was the CAFE RFP submittal review, and that was to compile a cost analysis of the building, the build-out required for the space, and to verify that the applicant, that they were comfortable with the cost of the build-out, and then kind of bring that back for further discussion at a later date. Then there was the third one, which was the staff accountant / budget analyst / HR tech, and it was to have staff post an available position to hire a finance staff accountant, and to have staff bring more information to an upcoming personnel committee to discuss the need of an HR tech and to discuss the need to hire a budget analyst at a future personnel committee. Then there was the fifth item, which was the item that was already approved at a previous meeting, was the, oh no, this wasn't, I'm sorry, I was thinking the eligibility specialist. This was the social worker 3 half-time to a full-time. These ones are requests that we get in kind of somewhat frequently, to increase a 0.5 social worker 2 to a 0.1 social worker 3. This is a request largely because the social worker 3s are challenging positions to find, but that is somewhat articulated in the minutes. Then there was the item that was already approved. Was the eligibility specialist at the previous meeting. Item number 7 was the Homeland Security training. And the recommendation was to have Jacob Anson apply for the federally sponsored Homeland Security training. And then the other one was the Oracle developer, was the item number 8, and to bring forward an additional contract for Oracle developer position to a future personnel committee meeting, and to have staff bring forward more details on how an Oracle developer would fit into the IT department with an organizational chart and details on the position for the next or future personnel committee. So there was a very, very lengthy meeting, lots of topics in there. I guess we'll open it up for discussions or motions.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Thank you. Well, we did kind of part out the meeting minutes from last time to this time.
Yeah.
I've got, I'd like to have a little discussion about item 4, which was the request for the staff accountant. I've got a budget amendment form that I obtained before the last go-around at the board meeting that had the overtime figured at 1,855.50 hours. Was there an updated or revised budget amendment form beyond this one?
There was some changes in the numbers because there was some that one of the numbers that was originally released had exempt employees included into the calculation, but there is a difference from the dollar amount and the hours. So the dollar amount is correct, but the hours are not.
Yes, that is correct.
So I'm just wondering if, so this one doesn't have the correct hours. Was there a corrected version of the budget amendment?
No, we didn't go back and amend that. Yep.
It was under justifications, 1,855.50 hours, and you folks had
Yep, we
corrected
had
that
discussed
to
it
be
with
500
each of
and, 500 and some change is the actual hours.
Yep.
Okay, I just wanted to know if, because there were some things revised and upgraded, if I saw the correct one there. So as it's noted in those meeting minutes, this came up for budget discussion in 2021. 2 were requested. We didn't, we gave 1. But now, so the budget year started January 1st, and then into the year less than 8 weeks, there's a request for the additional one. And like I mentioned before, I'd like the budget, there to actually be a budget season for staff requests, basically an open and a closed. And what happened in late '22 is there was a request from another office in between preliminary budget approved and final approval. A request came through and was granted, and it kind of opened the door, in my opinion, for a year-long, again, granting of staff requests. So sometimes we hear elected officials make a couple comments outside of meetings that they talk about holding the line and tapping the brakes, and on this one, I'm gonna tap the brakes, and I'm not gonna go along with granting that finance staff accountant at this time.
Okay.
So I can make that motion unless, because it's different than the
Yeah,
recommendation.
I guess how do you want to go about these? I mean,
Well, it'll just be this, and then item 7 would be a difference from the recommendation.
Okay.
You want me to just make a motion on this one now, or?
If you want to make a motion this one, you're more than welcome to.
Okay. I'll make a recommendation that the request for the finance staff accountant be denied at this time.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Catchmark. Do we have a second? Do we have a second? Do we have a second? Motion dies for the lack of a second. All right, back to the discussion here. And just staff, this is not, in a lot of these requests want to put out a description that there's a feeling that a lot of people in the public and within staff feel that these positions are being driven by ERP. That is not entirely the case. These positions were largely scouted out years ago, and they was not, whether we went ERP or if we would have went a different direction, ultimately these position requests were going to be necessary. A lot of it has to do with the growth of the county and the change in operations, and the operational changes were going to be necessary, whether it was ERP or a different perspective. And this is just largely pieces of the puzzle that were needed to accomplish good auditing standards, as well as being able to meet the public's needs and the internal operational needs. Then there's the, I guess, from the minutes on these items, I look for a motion either in a different direction or other discussion on the matters.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I had item 7 I wanted to.
Sure, that's fine. Yeah,
review.
absolutely. Do you have a discussion on item number 7 you'd like to have?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So this was a request for what's listed as federally sponsored Homeland Security training for a staff member that is described as an emergency preparedness coordinator. I would ask Lee, how many emergency managers do we have in Wright County?
So in the sheriff's office, you do have Seth and the assistant over there, Richard, and then in public health, they do have the planning piece as well. As far as I don't know how many they have under that title right offhand.
Okay. And I read the description here about it gives leadership qualities. What actually, when I printed this training program out, it comes out as a master's degree program. That's the way it's been described with some people that I've talked with. So it seems like it'd be more accurate to say it's a master degree program rather than training per se. But I wonder about the unestablished need for these leadership qualifications, what we're really going to gain. And if we have other emergency managers in the county, should this be more of a posted opportunity? And maybe we'd need one, but maybe it should be offered to all the potential emergency managers. To relate the money as far as payroll, if I understand this right, it's listed in the second paragraph that the grant loss is 15 to 20,000. It looks like this would be over 18 months, 12 weeks of payroll for this person to attend this education at the cost of about 18 to 20,000 taxpayer dollars.
So
Am I understanding that right?
in the county, we have 3 individuals that service as the emergency management wing, 1 in public health, and then 2 that reside within the sheriff's department. We actually had a pretty robust discussion on this. A lot of this was a discussion about investing in employees, do we or don't we? And right now, it is almost a mantra where in some areas we do, in other areas we don't. In the sheriff's department, they invest in their employees quite frequently, and they send them out to the FBI training. And this is a lot of the same type perspective as this. They're lengthy trainings, but they bring back a lot of invaluable information and invaluable knowledge to utilize here in Wright County. Now, if you don't do these type of trainings and you don't offer these type of opportunities, we are not always going to recruit and retain some of the highest and best employees, is one perspective. And then there's also the side of it as to having the capacity to have this information at the dollar amount. The only cost to us is their staff time. And well, their staff time, I think if they weren't in that position, they probably wouldn't go to this training. I mean, so largely paying them to be trained, I think that's true of a lot of cases. I think when you were a sheriff's deputy, I think when you got whatever incident trainings or any type of mental health trainings, you were paid for that time. So I think that's kind of, I mean, training being paid for your time is kind of almost a common assumption.
And commissioners, if you would allow me, Jamie Goodrum, Health and Human Services, and on the point of losing out on grant funding, I think Health and Human Services' point was we want to be upfront and transparent, but we have people that go out on parental leaves. We have people that are gone all the time that we're not able to bill their time. So I would hope that because yes, we want to be forthright and let you know what the outcome could be because this person would be attending something else, but this is no different than if anybody that's not in the office, so we regularly have people that because of their status of not being at work, we can't bill for their time. I don't know if other departments operate the same way, but I would hate to not have opportunities for our staff because we are able to bill for their time when they are here, if that makes sense. Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
I see there's a lot of white shirts here. I don't know if they're interested in this item or not, but my question is, you have emergency managers there. How would we as a board decide which emergency manager to send to this training? Did you folks know about this and did you see it of value for your staff? Or I guess I don't want to automatically grant something to the first person that says, look what we found, can we go? When I happen to know that there's other emergency managers in the county. And then another question with shortage of staff that we always hear from HHS would be, who's going to do this person's work while they're gone 12 weeks in 18 months? That would be a question I'd have.
So from that perspective, this position has been very fluid. It's sat open for quite a length of period of time. When the previous person left, I want to say it almost sat open for 4 months or 6 months. It was quite a while.
Yeah, I can speak to that. We lost our preparedness coordinator in the I think in the early stages of the pandemic, and then had someone who came and promptly left, which was super frustrating. I'm sure everyone's encountered that in a leadership position. And we had this as a staff promotion that we did internally. So we appreciate that Jacob stood forward. I do want to clarify this. This is asking for approval for him to apply, and he has to be accepted. So it's it's not a given with today's approval, assuming that does go forward, that we will be able to move forward with this. It's still, the person is selected based on their merits and their application and their credentials, and I'm assuming have to write an essay and all of those pieces as well. So I would hope that if the sheriff's office also wanted to send someone, that would be great, but it's not as simple as we're not taking a spot or anything like that from somebody else.
Sorry, I don't have enough particular information. Seth hasn't approached me with anything. I know that we're not siloed. We always work together within that realm of things. But I guess I would just throw this out there. In 2015, I had an opportunity of a lifetime to attend the FBI National Academy. That was 11 weeks out of town. Obviously, my peers were able to come around and cover for that loss. But the training that I received was absolutely world-class. And to this day, at my fingertips, I have information and peers around the entire country, and for that matter, around the world, that I'm able to glean information from and share information from. So obviously, training is an important part of what we do, and especially in the world of emergency management. That department is not siloed, and we work together, whether it's national disaster or the next pandemic. How do we come together and work together as a county? But we don't have to recreate the wheel in some of these things when we have a network that extends to the ends of the country. So I'm just throwing that out there. For this particular one, Commissioner, I don't have enough information. Seth hasn't come to me with anything. But I think that if given the opportunity and we were able to cover for that loss, we would certainly give it serious consideration, knowing that most of the time the training itself is covered through grants. So thank you.
And that is largely where the discussion went from the Personnel Committee, and the recommendation was to move forward with allowing the individual to apply, largely because we've historically heard from employees that the county has been challenging to get the opportunities to invest in employee training and advancement in their careers. And that is one perspective, especially when largely the dollars are coming from another source. This is a net zero to the taxpayers because we pay employees all the time to get trained. So you saying that they're not getting paid because they're going to be getting trained, well, they're still working, because in the perspective, we train employees all the time here and they're on the clock. So training means they are working. So it's ultimately a budgetary zero cost, because all the expenses, if this individual was awarded it, would be paid for by the grant and would bring back valuable information, as well as articulating to the employees of the county and to the individuals of the county that we do want to bring back good information and offer good services. And by doing this, that is accomplishing that goal.
Mr. Chair, I want to reiterate that as well, that I want our employees to know that we're going to invest in them, and they're bringing back that knowledge to serve Wright County better.
So other discussions, otherwise on the Personnel Committee, the recommendations, is there any other discussion? Otherwise, I will entertain a motion for the approval or the denial of individual or holistically the recommendations from the February 8th Personnel Committee of the whole.
I would like to make a motion to approve as a whole the recommendations put forward.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Dietrich.
I'll second that.
We have a second by Commissioner Holland. Any further discussion? Hearing no other discussion, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. All right, Personnel Committees from February 8th are approved. Now moving on to February 28th, we have the Surveyor Department internal promotion reorganization. This has been in the works for almost a year, maybe more potentially. It was to authorize the signatures of memorandum and understanding with the 49ers union relating to the Surveyors Department organizational and promotional process. This is largely addressing an issue having to do with the challenges with finding experienced surveyors and allowing us the opportunity to take individuals with little or no training in surveying and allowing us to train them internally and then to partner them with educational institutes to become full surveyors while they work here at Wright County. I applaud administration and I applaud Steve in the surveyors department on their hard work in creating this program. I think we're going to see a lot more of this coming forward in the years to come. This is what we need to do to get people the hands-on working experience and being able to earn income while they become educated. The other one was the holiday policy update. This largely has to do with the state's approval of Juneteenth. And then the recommendation was to authorize administration discretion of the, I moved to the last one. And the recommendation was to adopt the revised policy of 304 on the holidays. The other item was the position review schedule. This is a piece of the puzzle that came out of the comp and classification study. And this is basically setting all positions kind of on a schedule so that we are ongoingly looking at job descriptions and not getting it to a point where we have to look at all of them at one time. So they'll just ongoingly go through rotation. And this is a schedule that illustrates out how and when these job descriptions would be reviewed. And the recommendation was to authorize administration's discretion to review job descriptions and classifications in accordance with policy 101.07 based on the following schedule for the upcoming budget year. With that, I would entertain a motion for the approval of the February 28th.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Commissioner Holland.
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Catchmark. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Personnel Committee from February 28th are approved unanimously. Now we have the Committee of the Whole minutes from the 10 a.m. on the February 27th. So is there any discussion on those or questions on those?
I make a motion that we accept. Are we accepting it? We're not making it.
And this is basically the overcomp positions from the Sheriff's Department. So, and the recommendation was to continue the request, continued through 2023 that was granted in 2022. And you have a motion to approve the continuation of the overcomp for deputies within the Sheriff's Department through 2023.
Yes.
All right, motion by Commissioner Holland.
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Dietrich. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Then the PM meeting on February 27th on the Committee of the Whole, it was to review expenses related to the Wright County landline telephones. The recommendation was to move this forward into the Projects Administration Department to bring forward a presentation and any recommendations coming out of that analysis. And then there was an informational item which was to review and discuss the claims payment process, which was entirely educational. With that, I guess I would stand to make a motion to approve the recommendation, which the only recommendation was to move forward with the projects department to do an analysis of the phone systems in Wright County.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Commissioner Catchmark.
I'll second that.
Second by Commissioner Holland. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. At this point, we are going to forego the advisory committee updates as we are already late, 5 minutes for a joint ditch meeting. We will adjourn the Wright County Board meeting here at 10:35. Thank you.